This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
The more you listen,
the more we get into your head. Safety FM.
This is Safety Justice League.
Hey, welcome to the second episode of Safety Justice League, the podcast. I'm Jason Maldonado, and I've got the rest of the crew with me. We're going to have a great time today talking about justice, so let's get to it.
Yeah, I think, Jason, I think this is going to be a great topic because I think everybody kind of has a good idea of what safety is all about. And I think they know from the first episode what our league is all about. But I think the idea of what justice is about and what it means to us is something that we really need to discuss as a group.
I'm kind of scared, to be honest, because I feel like that justice word, like, I don't want to get into politics, but, you know, our political landscape now, it gives people like this different word association when they hear the word justice. And it just kind of freaks me out a little bit that people are taking it a different way.
It does me too. And I think before we get too far into it, we have to tell everybody where it came from in the first place, because it was always meant to be lighthearted and fun. After we put out the very first Ask a Safety Pro video, we got a comment on one of our on the thread that talked about how great our content was, but that together we were like the Justice League of Safety. So that's where the name came from. It was never all high and mighty. We were never out trying to change the world and bring peace and world domination at the same time.
Yeah, when someone gives you a good nickname, just let it stick.
Yeah, you got to take it.
Yeah.
So that's where it came from.
Yeah, we kind of joked about it at first, and then it just kind of stuck. It was sort of a tongue-in-cheek thing, and then it's like, it's kind of catchy. And on how you define justice, though, I think it's so subjective, right? Anybody can read into that. It's really difficult to define a word when everybody sees it from a different perspective. And like what Abby said about the different contexts that's used in. And I guess the way that I look at it, and by the way, I think it's great. There's no problem with having different personal definitions of justice. I think that's one of the reasons why the word is so powerful, because it can mean different things to different people, given the context that it's used in. And so I like to think of it sort of like an empty glass, and you can fill it up with whatever drink you want, and it kind of takes its own shape. And, so for me personally, I'll just dive in and say this is kind of how I see it, because I was putting some thought into it today. And I think to me, what justice means is, it's the ability to strip away all the bullcrap and really let good ideas lead the way. And you can really dig deeper into what that means exactly. But, in an organization, one of the common themes that I've heard as far as safety professionals being frustrated is, there's all this bureaucracy and safety doesn't have a voice, and safety gets hijacked and safety gets derailed and safety gets coupled up under HR. And then it's very difficult.
Don't have a budget.
Yeah, I don't have a budget. Exactly. And so, to get one of the things, at least in my own experience, is, I see it's so difficult. Safety, it's like a chef with too many, or a kitchen with too many chefs. And safety is one of the chefs in the kitchen. You got all these other people giving orders, and it just becomes chaotic in some organizations. And so, with all of the organizational challenges that safety can face, a lot of the safety people who are very passionate about safety, they just want to get the right idea out there and champion those ideas. And so to me, justice means it's not about who comes up with the idea or what your job title is. It's about letting the ideas lead the way.
Yeah, and I think one of the misnomers that a lot of people, when they see Safety Justice League, they immediately think social justice league, and there's a lot of difference, because I think that really the intention of our group is to give a voice to safety, but also at the same time evolve safety just a little bit away from the old ways that may not be working. And, I'll let somebody else give the definition of the original Justice League from DC Comics and the idea of how they were formed and what the intention of their forming was. But I think there's a lot of correlation there for how we did it, which is why it was so cool that was a name given to us.
I have a bunch of thoughts here, and I wanted to like quickly Google the Justice League, like the origin, and find the exact quote there, because I feel like I want to read it too. But I think justice, you're not supposed to use part of the word in the definition, but whatever. I think the root just, and I've heard some safety philosopher types talking about a just culture, and I think a lot of times safety professionals, we get in our own way. And I think that's why our voices are coming through, is that we're not trying to be like gurus or whatever, but that I think we're really getting back to not the basics, but really back to why a lot of us are in safety to begin with. We want the workers to be safe, and we want to give them the right tools and education and communication that they need. And I feel like that's always going to be the root of what we're doing. And I think Safety Justice League just sounds cool.
Yes, it does.
It does. For me, it's about, I think you guys have all articulated it perfect. It's about the message. It's about the community that we're trying to build, and really just connecting safety on a practical level. That's always been my shtick, sort of, is just making things practical, not overcomplicating, not making it more difficult than it already is. But I think that will translate from becoming just the safety message for safety people, safety professionals, and turn into something that they're going to want to share with the people that work on their projects, or, on their manufacturing floor, or wherever it happens to be. It's going to, it's real messages, it's personal, and it's the kind of stuff that people need to hear from safety professionals, so that we can kind of reconnect to the workforce in that way.
Yeah. I like your point about principle, that there's two ways to look at. I always like to approach things from the first through the lens of principle. And letting the best ideas lead the way, for example, is let's dig down to what's right in principle, and let's first start there. And, of course, you can't stop on just principle. Then you also have to look to see what's practical. And so, using those two lenses sort of completes the whole package, because you want to start on principles to make sure you're going the right direction. But then you also have to know how to get there. Right? What are some of the practical steps? Like, how can you approach and tackle some of these challenges in your workplace from whatever position you are in the company? And that's going to look different depending on what type of leaders you have in your company, how big your company is, what industry you're in, what type of culture you're starting with.
Yeah, and I think another cool correlation between Safety Justice League and the DC Justice League is, they fought not necessarily for a voice for others, but they did fight for others that may not have a voice of their own. And one of the things that I've noticed about our group is that, through interactions and through support of other people on social networks, there's a lot of fighting for others that may not have a voice for themselves, fighting for those that may not be able to say the things that we say about what's wrong with safety or what's wrong with operations. And so we're working towards giving a voice to the voiceless. And I think that's a pretty cool aspect.
And also
that can be scary.
The key point about not subscribing to one guru or one thought process regarding safety, but that only together can we really solve the problems. It's not just going to be one silver bullet. It's going to be multiple perspectives that are ultimately going to solve our problems.
Yeah, that's a great point, Abby. Everyone is a mix of good and bad ideas. And it's important. One of the things I always try to watch out for, something I kind of learned the lesson of when I was younger, was, everyone is a mix of good and bad ideas. Some people have more good, some people have more bad ideas. But just because somebody has a bad idea, it doesn't necessarily mean you throw them out with the idea. You can look at a person and you could say, well, that's a bad idea, I'm not going to take that idea. Or that's a good idea, I want to take that idea. I think the point is that when you see the good idea, forget about where it came from, because it doesn't matter where it came from. It doesn't matter what your job title is. It's let's get behind and push the good ideas regardless of their source.
Yeah, and I think that all of safety as a whole, everybody's different opinion. I try to look at it, as a buffet. There's a buffet in front of you of all these different ideas. And so you take what you want and you put it on your plate. And then if you grab bones by accident, you set those bones aside and you don't consume them, but you do consume the good stuff. But it's a buffet of ideas. And, like to Abby's point of none of us are going to be having all the right answers, all the right times and things like that. Not, even our group together may have a mindset that's not 100% correct. And that's where those interactions with everyday people and the people that are interacting with our posts are so vital, because they're giving great ideas as well. The people listening to this podcast right now may not agree with everything. They may even have a better idea than we do about something that would work for safety. And that's where those interactions are so important. And that's where we're able to learn from one another, and we're able to learn from the tribe that we're building to make safety even better.
And I think a lot of it is that it's fun. You can't forget that. I think we've managed to do something here that most people don't do very often. I think we talked about this in the last episode, was, the whole idea that just safety isn't really that exciting when you break it down to most people. To nerds like us, it is. But, we really, I think we've stumbled upon something that's fun to do and impactful. And I think that's part of, why the message gets out and why we're going to continue doing it.
I think also too, our comments section on a lot of our posts, sometimes comment sections aren't a safe space, but I think in ours, it is a pretty safe space. And I know people hate that term, but whatever. And talking about the good ideas and bad ideas, it's just a way to get some of those bad ideas out. Just get them out, get over them, and start the discussion and start coming up to some of the good stuff and collaboration.
And that's a really great point. I don't think we've really had any run-ins with anybody that's just, vitriolic and hateful. We've had disagreements, but the really cool part about it is that these are conversations that other people recognize we should be having. And when they comment, they're doing it as professionals. And I've really appreciated that. And I think that's part of the way that we've portrayed the group, but also in the way that we've asked for input from others. And it's a really cool thing to see, people actually getting along.
Yeah, it's definitely a marketplace of ideas on LinkedIn. That's one of the greatest parts of it. And iron sharpens iron, and if you have an idea and someone disagrees, well, that's great, because then you can see both the ideas are going to clash. And you can hash it out, and you can both say, so, well, this is why I think this, and this is why I think this, and this is why I think you're wrong, and I think you're misinterpreting this, or you're wrong here. That's good and healthy for us, because, we can learn from that. And learning is the goal. Learning is the heart of safety.
Yeah, and I think even to take it further, what I really have enjoyed is the people that are responding to the posts and responding to our group that are not safety professionals, people that are in regular operations, people that may not even be in the fields that we're in, that are just something is resonating with them in relation to to Safety Justice League and social media as a whole. Seeing those responses from people who aren't in safety has just been eye-opening to me, because some of the responses are like, I never even thought about checking for an evacuation plan in a building that I was in. And, us in the safety world would be like, what do you mean? That's the first thing you check for. But I think this is opening the eyes of people that may not even be in our field. And, that's the hope for this podcast, is that people that aren't in the safety field will be listening to it just for good ideas about safety and good ideas just in general about social media.
Totally agree. And there's another aspect too that I don't think we've really talked about in our group, even on our own, is that there's a lot of safety professionals out there that they are the only safety person at their company, and they're just by themselves. They have no one else to talk to, because no one wants to talk to the safety person.
It's lonely.
Yeah, it's super lonely. And I was that person. I mean, I was a safety department of one at a couple companies I worked at. And it would have been awesome back then to have podcasts to listen to, because then I could pretend the people on the podcast were my friends or in my safety department and get some ideas. But yeah, I think we'll help some of those people in that they're not alone. And if they're maybe in a remote location, sometimes they don't get out to network with some of the different safety groups that are out there. And so maybe social media can actually serve to fill in their safety department a little bit, although just virtually.
Well, and I think the extension of that, because I actually just had somebody reach out to me this morning based on, I just met her through the contact that we've had online through posting these videos and these clips and things, and asked me, my opinion on kind of a personal thing, but it was job related. How should she address this situation with her manager? And I won't say what it was, but I mean, that was such a cool thing, is that, now that we are so connected, that if we can provide that extra body in your safety department, they actually have ways to reach out to us and talk, or anybody else in the group. It doesn't really have to be the four of us. We can bounce those ideas off each other. And I think the level of comfort that people have is starting to go up, just because of some of these things that we've been doing.
Sure with all the posts that Jason Lucas has out there, I'm sure people think that they're like, he's a cousin, or he's our other safety coworker, that like social media people, it kind of breaks down these walls that people think that they like kind of know you, and it makes them feel comfortable to be able to reach out and ask a question that they may not want to ask in like the general comments section, or just pose a general question to people on social media. So I think that's exciting to me when people reach out and that they feel that they can trust me and I'm a person that's safe for them to ask certain questions of. That's awesome.
Yeah. And if you really want to get comfortable with Jason or any of us, check us out on TikTok. I love Jason's videos on TikTok. All of you guys' TikTok videos, but Jason Lucas especially is just like a big brother.
Yep, totally.
He's killing it.
Who would have thought a safety person could kill it on TikTok? I never would have thought that.
But don't you just want to give Jason a hug, though? Like
you do.
Come on in here and give me a hug, man. You're just so cool.
Jason's going to be bombarded by people that want hugs at the next conference he goes to.
If you see Jason Lucas, hug him.
Yeah, just come on up. No
That's
problem.
Awesome.
Just hug. It won't be.
You know what, though? Sometimes some safety people, they might just need a hug. Sometimes I can identify with that.
That's true. It can get brutal out there for safety people, especially if you're on your own, especially if you're kind of in a, if you're the only one bringing the spotlight to safety and you're kind of getting hostility from operations folks or from your higher ups. There's a lot of people in that situation. And so, we can be helping facilitate, trying to help you navigate those waters. And even if it comes down to just some sort of emotional support, just so you know that you're not alone. I know a lot of people who are struggling or in a bad spot, and and it helps to talk to people about it. It can help get you through.
Yeah. And, if you're one of those people and you're listening to this podcast right now, just let me say this, you're not alone. Every one of us that are part of this Safety Justice League at one point in our career have felt like we are on an island of just being the only one. Then nobody understands the woes. Nobody understands what I'm going through. Nobody understands the loneliness that is this position. You're not alone. This is something that's happening to a lot of your peers in this industry, and reach out. Like, do not hesitate for a second to reach out to any one of us or somebody else that maybe you feel comfortable with on social media, or a friend, a family member, whatever it is. Just make that connection, because you're not alone. And we want you to know that more than anything. If you're listening right now and you feel that way, you are not alone. You have people out there that are ready to support you.
And if we can make a difference, to me, that's what justice means in this group. Because that's what it's been for me. I had, a mentor that I felt a really good personal connection to for years and years and years. he passed away in 2016. And I don't think until, I started talking to you guys and really getting to know all of you and collaborating and doing all these things that we're doing, I didn't really have that resource, that ability to pick up the phone and call somebody that I trusted and call somebody that could, really help me, walk me through those tough times. And that's been a game changer for me.
I really look forward to some of the safety conferences that I've attended in the past. And I look forward to going to them in the future, because connecting with other safety people, we're really the only other people that know exactly what our job is like. I mean, my husband's a teacher, and I, even though I teach classes, sometimes it's not the same. So, finding people that are in your same industry that really get where you're coming from, that's a big deal. And so the in-person connection is great, but I think like social media, these podcasts, I think it's a great way to just further, to that point that we're not on an island, we're not by ourselves. We can tune into different podcasts, we can jump in the comments section and have conversations and just work things out. We're not on our own trying to figure everything out, and we're not expected to know everything either.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that so much until I got into LinkedIn, because I did feel on an island, and I still do in some ways. But it's amazing how LinkedIn has allowed me to connect to so many people. And it's like, wow, other people are dealing with these issues too. This isn't just me, and I'm not like crazy for thinking this way. And there's other people who see things this way. So it's been a huge, boon, just me personally, being able to see that, the whole world isn't crazy. The things that you may be going through, it's not that way everywhere. And there are a lot of people that are in your corner.
Yeah, no, I believe that the definition of justice, from the standpoint, that we've been discussing just recently towards this section of the podcast, has really been, you're not alone. And I think that the desire of the Safety Justice League as a whole is to be a voice and to express struggles that people in our industry go through in a way that might not be a way that the person who's struggling with it can express it. Because, Jason's gonna put on a really cool skit, and he's gonna explain it in a way that only he can, and there's probably going to be some leggings and a ladder involved. Or just a really cool cameo from the kiddos. I'm probably going to try to fit it in 60 seconds or less with some song lyrics and a little bit of humor. Abby's going to say, let's talk about this. And it's going to be, opening that conversation. Nathan is probably going to, share some really cool video that catches everybody's attention. Then he'll discuss it a little bit as well. But if you have these struggles, hey, reach out to us. Reach out to our website, on safetyjusticeleague.com. Post it as a comment, post it as a question, because these are things that if you're struggling with something that you want to see discussed, that's what we're here for. We're here to express things that maybe other people can't express, and do it in a manner that might reach as many people as possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And if, and if anyone wants to have us address certain things on our podcast going forward, if you have any suggestions or want to submit any questions for our Ask a Safety Pro video going forward, go check out our website, safetyjusticeleague.com, and submit a question and subscribe.
Yeah, and we try to make it as easy as possible. You can even email us at safetyjusticeleague@gmail.com. We're trying to make this as easy as possible. Safety Justice League is pretty much the brand. Most everything you're going to be able to find us at a YouTube channel, a Facebook page group, or a group page, a LinkedIn page, just hashtag Safety Justice League. There's so many different ways that you can find our content, as well as find a way to connect with us so I don't feel so bad
about the word justice anymore. I feel like I was worried we were going to drop it for a little bit. But I'm glad that we're going to stick with it, because I think it really does make sense. So thanks you guys for bringing in, justice and what justice means to you. And I'm sure it'll keep coming up, because it seems to be one of the popular comments lately on the different posts, is kind of digging into like just what is Safety Justice League, and that justice word just really seems to stick out for people as something they want to hear just a little bit more about. So maybe we can add in a dash of that once in a while on the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing is there's so many different people coming from so many different backgrounds and experiences and situations. And, it'll be interesting to hear where someone's coming from, what challenge that they're facing. And then, the amount of experience, especially between the three of you, you guys have been doing this longer than I have even. And I have a lot to learn from you guys. And I'm excited to, kind of swap ideas back and forth and see how you guys would approach an issue. And if, I think it'd be great to hear the struggles that other people are having, like provide a little bit of background on what they're facing and maybe, try to figure out how we would approach something like that. Or maybe we have approached something like that before. But I think the idea here is at the end of the day, sharing some knowledge and trying to help each other out.
And I think we could even bring one of those people on the show and have them ask the question cold without us, just like we do in the videos. No prep work. Here's what we would do.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That would be fun. Be fun.
So anybody want to be on the show? Here's your opportunity.
Yeah, reach out and let us know.
Absolutely.
All right. So we've talked a lot about justice today. I think we've defined it in real time for ourselves. We really appreciate everybody listening. Much, much more to come. Next episode, you're going to see some Safety Justice League Presents, and you're not going to want to miss it. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again on the next one.
Like what we do? Share this on your socials and tell everyone. Bringing you information you never knew you cared about. Rated R Safety Show.
We are changing safety cultures. One broadcast and one podcast at a time. SafetyFM.com.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.